Hello lovely people, welcome to the Geek Cupboard. I am Penge and welcome to day 14 of the Geek Cupboard's Fes-tea-ve Advent Countdown 2021, and let's see what tea we have to mark 2 weeks of lovely tea advent calendar goodness. Now I can't see number 14 on the first sort of panel there, so is it on the second panel? Yes it is, right, it's right there. Okay, so what do we have in store for us today? Right, I see. Now this could be very, very interesting indeed. So we have today in store, we have peppermint and licorice, a sweet and deliciously refreshing thrill. Oh, a thrill no less. Now the only thing is, I think it's been made relatively clear that I'm not the biggest fan of mint teas. We've seen, I think, one of them on this calendar so far, and it was okay. But I'm not the biggest fan of a mint tea. So, we've got peppermint. So, it's going to be a tricky thing to find amazing. And also, I'm not the biggest fan of licorice. I'm not really a fan of it at all. So, there's a tea with mint in it and licorice. So this could be very interesting. Either I'm not going to like it at all. I'm just going to go, nope, I actually can't manage this. Or it's going to be some sort of wonderful magical combination which works really, really fantastically well. And I'm going to love it very much. So do you know what? Let's go and find out. And to help us do that, we need to go to the kettle. And here we are with our lovely, freshly brewed cup of peppermint and licorice tea, although whether it is actually a lovely tea remains to be seen. I'm not entirely convinced, but hopefully the tea can surprise me a bit. So, to look at the tea, I mean, initially, I did look at this and think, yep, that's a black tea. But now the more I do look at it, I actually think it might just be a very, very dark green tea. I don't think it's quite dark enough for a black tea. I mean, the tea bag was in here for a good long while. I mean, at least 5 minutes, if not a bit more, because I went and sort of potted around the kitchen and put some plates in the dishwasher and all that kind of stuff. So it was in for a good while, and I would expect a black tea to be a bit darker than that. So maybe it's just a very, very dark green tea. I mean, I can't smell anything from here. If I put my nose to the... Yeah, okay, I can smell a tiny, tiny bit of peppermint. It's very faint. I mean, that doesn't really say much because my nose isn't working quite properly. But, it's a bit of a faint sort of smell of peppermint. But here we go. Let's have a taste. Peppermint and licorice. Here we go. Let's see what's going on with this. Okay. That is... I mean, you can taste the peppermint. Do you know what? It's surprisingly sweet. It is surprisingly sweet, but there's a bit of a licorice taste to it. I'm not the biggest fan, if I'm honest. I mean, it's okay. Hang on. I need another bit of that. Hang on. Do you know what? It's interesting in terms of how the flavour is delivered, which all sounds a little bit kind of sort of highbrow, doesn't it, when we talk about tea? But when you get the sort of, while you're drinking it, you can smell the peppermint, and then you can taste the peppermint, and then... So after it's been in your mouth for, I don't know, just a few seconds, you then get a burst of sweetness, which I assume is the licorice kind of just sort of, bursting through. And it kind of, then becomes sort of sweet and sort of tangy almost. Okay. Do you know what? It's okay. I would not be buying any of this in bulk, shall we say, but it will do. It will do for today. Yeah, that's quite intriguing though. You sort of get this sort of burst. So hang on. I'll tap when the tea's gone into my mouth, and I'll tap again when you get the sweetness. Hang on. Here we go. This is science. There we go. Yeah, there's a little sort of gap between, and when it's, you've actually sort of, drank the tea a bit, then there's a bit of sweetness as well that remains behind. Okay. Do you know what? That's interesting, I suppose. I mean, it's certainly not my favourite one, but at least it's got an interesting sort of thing going. Yeah, it is quite sweet. Okay, I mean, that has surprised me. It does say on the little thing, a sweet and deliciously refreshing thrill. Oh, I didn't read the thingy. Hang on. I've just knocked my glasses over. Hang on. I didn't read the little thingamajig. Where is it? Hang on. It's there. Sorry about the angle. The camera stands in the way. Minty cool, sweet with delight, the perfect post-feast treat. Okay, I mean, there is mint, and it is certainly sweet. It's very interesting. It's an interesting type of a tea, I would say. But I won't be getting any more. Right, here we go. So, let's go on to today's question, which comes from Ginger Ramsden. And, here we go. This is a tremendous question. We're moving on to the proper big hitters now. So, the question from Ginger Ramsden is, to dunk or not to dunk? That is the question. It's a wonderful question. It's a wonderful question. Now, some people will know what this means. Some people will be going, yes, to dunk or not to dunk. Very important. Some people will be going, what? What are you talking about? What is this madness? Please explain, you strange man. So yes, to dunk or not to dunk, really, it's about biscuits. So in the UK, we would call them biscuits. Other parts of the world might call them cookies. But I mean, is a cookie is kind of a fixed thing. In my head, a cookie is like a thing with chocolate chips in or something like that. Whereas biscuits, there's more variety of biscuits. There are many, many, many different types of biscuits. So we're talking UK biscuits. So we're talking things like custard creams and nice biscuits and digestives and chocolate digestives and hobnobs and rich tea biscuits and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about all those kind of biscuits. We're not just talking about cookies, because they're a specific... in the UK, they would be a type of biscuit. A cookie would be in the biscuit aisle, along with many other biscuits. So the question is asking, essentially, do you dunk a biscuit or do you not dunk a biscuit? And I mean, I think it's important to sort of clarify here that it kind of depends on what you're dunking and how long you're dunking it for. There are some biscuits that I would never dunk, some that just should never be dunked, whereas others do really well. The biscuit has to have a kind of, a good sort of biscuit structural integrity. It has to hold the water well. When you put the biscuit into the tea, some biscuits just kind of collapse, they just fall apart. And then you take it out of the tea and you go, oh no, I've got biscuit in my tea, and then it's a big disaster. And then the Queen gets involved, and it's all very awful when that happens. It's a bit of a shambles, Tower of London kind of thing it is. So you don't want that to happen at all. So if you are dunking biscuits, you have to be very careful not to sort of over dunk them. But yeah, dunking biscuits, I haven't explained what that means. That means essentially getting a biscuit and putting it in your tea. That's what dunking a biscuit means. So you get a biscuit and you put it in your tea for a short amount of time and you take it out and then you eat the dunked bit of biscuit, and it's lovely. It's really, really good, depending on what you are dunking, of course. But yeah, so that's what dunking means. And yeah, we do that. I mean, I do that a lot. If I have tea and biscuits, generally, depending on the biscuits that I've got, I will dunk them because it's lovely. Because then you get that lovely kind of biscuity sort of goodness with tea. I mean, there are no losers in this situation. So custard creams, I think they're good. I think they're quite good for dunking. I think they kind of hold together quite well. So I do love a custard cream. I really like a custard cream. They are fantabulous biscuits, the king of the biscuits. So custard creams, I think, are pretty good for dunking. Jammy Dodgers, yes, they are a real thing, people not from the UK. They're kind of like two... what are they? Like a sort of a sandwichy type biscuit. So there's a little round biscuit base, and then it's kind of got a blob of... I was going to say jam, but it's not really jam. It's kind of like a hardish kind of jam-like substance. I don't really know what it is. It's like a sweet sort of jelly jam type thing. And then there's another biscuit push on the top, but they have a little sort of heart or a round thing on the top, so you can see a little window. Sometimes it's a heart, sometimes it's a round circle. So you can see the sort of jam filling thing through the middle. Google it. They are a real thing, I do promise. Jammy Dodgers. And they're very good. They're very good for dunking. They seem to hold together quite well. Hobnobs. Again, all these biscuits are real, by the way. I mean, if you're from the UK, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Other people around the world are going to be going, hobnobs? He's lost his mind. Is this the day that Penge's gone mad? These are all real things, I promise. So hobnobs without chocolate, because you can get chocolate hobnobs and hobnobs without chocolate. Hobnobs without chocolate, they're not as good. They tend to fall apart relatively quickly, I think. With chocolate, they're better at dunking. So you can hold them in more, or you can possibly sort of dunk them and then dunk them again, maybe, if you wanted to. But of course, if you do dunk something with chocolate, there is a risk that the chocolate can melt off a bit and go in your tea, and then it's all bad. So you want to make sure you don't dunk it for too long, so you don't get this kind of melty chocolate in your tea, because that's going to ruin your brew a little bit. Ginger nuts, again, they're real, promise. They're quite absorbent, and I find that they tend to fall apart, not overly quickly, but yeah, they're quite absorbent. They sort of suck up the tea, and therefore they kind of get a little bit fall aparty relatively quickly. I mean, nice biscuits, I think they're pronounced nice, or nice, I'm not sure. Nice biscuits. That's a type of biscuit. I'm not just saying biscuits that are nice. It's a type of biscuit called a nice biscuit. They're awful for dunking. They're really, really bad. They're like a little kind of thin, sort of short... Are they shortbready? Possibly, I don't know. They're a little sort of thin biscuit with kind of like sort of a sugary sort of sprinkling on the top, I think. They collapse very, very readily. They just... You put them near the tea and they just go... and just sort of collapse. And you don't want to put them in your tea and then them just disintegrate in your tea, because it's all very awful. yeah, you don't want to get Her Majesty involved in all that kind of terrible embarrassment. So yeah, you don't want that to happen. So yeah, stay away from those. Digestives sort of are okay. Chocolate digestives are a bit better, again, because I think the chocolate on both a sort of a hobnob and a digestive kind of holds it together a bit. Kind of, keeps it a little bit more sort of secure. So, sort of chocolate digestives are kind of in the middle, I would guess. So sort of custard creams, Jammy Dodgers at the top, ginger nuts, nice biscuits right at the bottom. Rich tea biscuits, I think, are quite good for dunking. I think they're okay because they're quite dense. I think they're quite a dense biscuit. They're not sort of light and airy and fluffy or anything. They're quite condensed as a rich tea biscuit. I mean, they are a bit boring. They're a very boring biscuit. They're like the biscuit equivalent of beige. They're just sort of a thing you can eat. I mean, they're not very sweet. They're not very interesting. They're just sort of there. But I think they are good for dunking. I think because they're so densely kind of the material they're made of is so densely squished together that they are quite good for dunking. They're quite absorbent, so they can take quite a lot of tea. I mean, there's probably loads more biscuits, but those are the ones that kind of sprung to mind. If you are thinking about dunking a Jaffa cake, then don't. Just don't do that because it's wrong. Just don't do that. If you do that, then Her Majesty will probably have you executed at the Tower of London. I mean, biscuit sort of collapse in your tea. You have to go to the tower and kind of explain yourself. But yeah, if you dunk a Jaffa cake, then I'm sorry, but yeah, it's just out in the yard and then you're executed. So don't dunk Jaffa cakes because it's just not right, and you shouldn't do that ever. So there you go, you have been warned. So I mean, the initial question was to dunk or not to dunk. That is the question. I would say to dunk. To dunk, yes, but it depends what. So if I'm round someone's house and they say, here you go, here's some biscuits, and it's a mixture of, I don't know, custard creams and chocolate digestives, then yes, I will absolutely dunk those. Being careful with the chocolate digestives to make sure the chocolate doesn't go into the tea too much. But I'd be happy to do that. Whereas if they said, here, have some biscuits, are you going to dunk them? And they've given me a plate of, sort of nice biscuits and possibly ginger nuts, then I'm probably not going to dunk because they are going to end up kind of disintegrating, absorbing the tea, and then falling apart into my mug. And that's just bad. So yeah, it depends. It depends on the situation, I'm afraid. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really answer the question. But if I have the choice, yes, I will absolutely dunk my biscuits because it's wonderful. If you've never tried it, because I don't know how global this is. Is it a very British thing to do? I really don't know. But yeah, try it. Give it a go, I think. Get a biscuit or a cookie or whatever you want, and then just sort of, I didn't really do cookies actually, but yeah, just sort of dunk it in, make some tea. It probably needs to be a sort of, I would call it a proper cup of tea, not a fancy cup of tea like this, a proper cup of, sort of Yorkshire Gold or whatever. But yeah, try it and then get a biscuit and just dunk it in. Not like all the way in. You don't dunk it so it's like you're burning your fingers or whatever. You just put in a little bit of the biscuit, go doop doop dunk, and then you eat it. But you don't leave it in for too long. Don't leave it in for too long because otherwise that is asking for trouble because then it can just collapse. And the last thing you want, you just lift it out and there's half your biscuit is just in your tea floating around. So yeah, just sort of quick dunk in and then just eat the bit that's been dunked. It's really nice. It's really, really good. But I mean, yeah, it might be a global thing. Everyone might do it, or I might just sound mad. I don't know. It might sound like I've created this imaginary thing. But no, it is a common thing. It's a common thing here anyway. In the UK, we do this. Hopefully, it's not entirely confined to the UK. But if it's not, then maybe we can start a trend. I mean, if it is even, maybe we can start a trend and sort of, get dunking going global, possibly. That'd be nice. Some viral dunking. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? But there we go. Hopefully that has answered the question. And we've also waffled on about biscuits for ages. I don't know how long we've been talking about biscuits. 10 minutes or something? I'm not entirely sure. But there we go. So we've waffled on about biscuits for a while. We've answered the question. I've got my tea. I mean, I'm not going to waste a tea. I'm not going to waste a tea that I do not think is awful. It's okay. It's an all right cup of tea. It probably... Just trying to think of where it would rate in terms of the other mint tea. I think because it's got that kind of interesting kind of hit of sweetness, I think I would put it above the other mint tea that we had right at the start. Was it day 3 or something? We had a kind of minty tea. I would put it above that one, I think, because it's got a little bit of something else going on. It's mint, but with something else, with a kind of licoricey sort of sweetness going on. So I put it above that, but yeah, it's certainly it's way down the pecking order in terms of the favourite teas that we've had so far from our calendar. But you know what? It's tea. All tea is good teas, yeah. So I will have this, I will finish this off, and we will wrap things up for the moment. So for now, thank you very much for joining me for day 14 of the Fes-tea-ve Advent Countdown 2021, and I will see you next time. He's gone down the lifts even though they're not built. The lifts aren't finished. People, this is very dangerous. Martin said it's fine and gave me a negative review. You silly madman, you've clicked the wrong button. It looked like he had no trousers on, which was a little bit strange. Oh, Linda, with your gleaming golden words of appreciation. Linda says, an okay hotel.